When people think of American muscle cars in the late 1960s, names like the Pontiac GTO, Chevrolet Chevelle SS, or Plymouth Roadrunner come to mind. But did you know that Ford, the company that conquered the world with the Mustang, was once missing a true mid-size contender to go toe-to-toe with these legends? Then, in 1968, they answered back, the Ford Torino GT. A car not meant to outshine the Mustang, but to fill the gap the Mustang couldn't reach. A latecomer, yes, but by no means ordinary. In today's video, we're diving deep into one of Ford's most underrated GT models. From its sleek fastback design and potent engine options to its quiet but lasting influence in the muscle car world, the 1968 Ford Torino GT deserves to be remembered as a buried gem. And maybe, just maybe, by the end of this video, you'll never look at it the same way again. In the mid-1960s, America witnessed the rise of a new trend. The Pontiac GTO debuted in 1964 like a thunderous punch, a mid-size car carrying within it the heart of a true race car. It was fast, bold, and full of challenge. And most importantly, it made the entire industry take notice. Soon after, other names jumped into the game. Chevelle SS, Dodge Coronet RT, Plymouth GTX, all wanted to assert their place in the rapidly growing muscle car segment. And what about Ford? They had the Mustang, true, a model that was wildly successful beyond expectations. But the Mustang was a pony car, not a true muscle car. It was based on the Falcon platform, compact, light, and targeted at a completely different audience. Ford tried to fill that gap with the Fairlane GT and GTA. But those cars never truly had the muscle to compete with the GTO or GTX. They lacked boldness, lacked unique character, and more importantly, they lacked emotion. Ford knew they needed more than that. They needed a true mid-size model, capable of standing shoulder to shoulder with the toughest rivals. And they needed it immediately. And so, a completely new generation of Fairlane was born, with a fresh and hopeful name, Torino. And when it wore the GT badge, Ford was finally ready to enter the battle. From the very first glance, the Torino GT gave off a different vibe. It didn't try to puff itself up like the Chevelle or GTX. Instead, it blended the smoothness of the Mustang with the mature stance of a mid-size car. The first highlight was the fastback design, which Ford called the sports roof. The roofline swept long and smooth toward the rear, creating an aerodynamic and eye-catching shape. This design wasn't just beautiful, it also contributed to performance at higher speeds. At the front, the car had a split grille, symmetrically placed headlights, and on some versions, hidden lamps tucked behind powered covers, giving it a technological and modern look. On the sides, stamped character lines stretched along the body, making the Torino appear longer and more muscular. The GT badge and body stripes were visual highlights that made heads turn wherever it went. Ford also cleverly released several different body styles, from two-door hardtop, fastback, to convertible. Each version carried its own personality, but all aimed to combine performance and style. And that combination became most evident the moment you stepped inside the Torino GT. The car's interior was designed around the driver, but without neglecting passengers. Everything conveyed a sense of solidity, focus, and intent. The dashboard had sharp, clean shapes, not overly ornate, but with its own character. Deep-set round gauges seemed to invite you to peer into the dancing numbers. The slim but firm three-spoke steering wheel gave the impression of a performance machine ready to go. Not only delivering a sporty feel, the Torino GT also revealed a surprising side: comfort. Depending on the version and options, you might find cloth, vinyl, or even leather seats, complete with headrests and a central armrest. The air conditioning controls, radio system, and electric switches were all within easy reach. Not flashy, but effective. It was the kind of space made for people who loved to drive but also wanted to enjoy the ride. One notable detail was how Ford combined colors and materials. Some interiors came in bright red, some all black, and others in elegant two-tone schemes. Altogether, they made you feel like you were sitting inside a car far more upscale than its price would suggest. But of course, the Torino GT didn't just impress with how it felt to sit in. What happened under the hood was what truly defined its character. It began with the 302 cubic inch V8, suitable for those seeking a balance between performance and everyday usability. But for those who wanted something more serious, Ford offered the 390 FEV8. With a 4-barrel carburetor and a rated output of 325 horsepower, this was the most popular choice for the GT version. In reality, many cars tested on dynos showed actual output higher than the number printed on paper. However, what made the Torino GT truly special lay in the lesser-known options. Some cars could be ordered with the 427 V8, an engine that had previously dominated NASCAR racing. And most notably, there was the 428 Cobra Jet option, introduced in mid-1968. With a high-performance camshaft, higher compression ratio, and optimized intake system, the 428 CJ was officially rated at 335 horsepower, but in practice, it could reach nearly 400. That was a figure serious enough to make GTOs and Chevelle SS models take notice. Depending on configuration, customers could choose a 3-speed manual, 4-speed manual, or C6 automatic transmission. Combined with customizable differentials and suitable rear axle ratios, the Torino GT could be packaged exactly to the driver's taste. From a street cruiser with a mellow growl to a full-blown quarter-mile machine. But it wasn't just the power that defined the Torino GT. How it handled and responded on the road was just as important. At the time, few expected a muscle car to ride so smoothly and stay this composed. The Torino GT's suspension was tuned to withstand high torque while still delivering a stable feel through turns or sudden lane changes. Especially on models equipped with handling packages, the steering response felt surprisingly precise, not vague like many other cars of the same era. One interesting aspect was the Torino GT's relatively balanced front-to-rear weight distribution, thanks to a well-proportioned wheelbase and Ford's thoughtful layout of mechanical components. That helped keep body motion in check, even under hard acceleration or sudden high-speed braking. Perhaps that's why many people chose the Torino GT as a muscle car with a brain. Powerful and fast, but never wild or reckless. But the fastback version with its sports roof design would surprise you even more. It wasn't just about looking good. That shape had real performance intent. The smoothly sloping rear roofline didn't just reduce drag. It gave the car a silhouette that looked like it was in motion, even when standing still. And more importantly, it paved the way for aerodynamic ambitions, especially as Ford set its sights on the NASCAR track. The fastback version was often paired with higher-end packages, bigger engines, tuned suspension, and visual upgrades like side stripes, sporty wheels, and blackout grills. The image of a Torino GT fastback with flared rear tires, lowered stance, and a throaty exhaust growl, that's what made speed lovers turn their heads. Interestingly, from this very variant, Ford developed other true race-bred cars, This wasn't just a technological evolution, it was also a brilliantly strategic move in marketing. They created a bridge between the showroom and the racetrack, between the customer and the driver. But off the racetrack, the Torino GT faced another challenge: how to win over everyday car buyers in a market that was already flooded with big-name contenders like the Pontiac GTO, Chevrolet Chevelle SS, Dodge Charger RT, and Plymouth Roadrunner. Each of these models had a clear personality and a loyal fan base. The Torino GT, despite its fresh design and impressive equipment, still struggled to make a strong impression. The automotive press at the time didn't ignore the Torino, but they didn't praise it as a phenomenon either. Magazines like Car and Driver and Motor Trend appreciated the car's performance and balance, but also commented that the Torino lacked a distinct character compared to its competitors. It was like the well-rounded student who rarely stood out. Part of the reason lay in Ford's own marketing strategy. The company threw all its weight behind promoting the Mustang, its golden goose, while the Torino GT was placed in a secondary role. The Torino's image wasn't repeated on TV commercials, didn't appear in famous films or in iconic racing events, and so, even with all its potential, the Torino GT could not become a cultural icon like its rivals. Although it wasn't celebrated from the beginning, the Torino GT quietly laid the foundation for one of Ford's most explosive performance eras in the following decade. From its aerodynamic fastback design to its strong engine customization potential, every element of this first GT became the basis for later iconic variants. First came the Torino Cobra, a model launched in 1969, carrying the 428 Cobra jet engine as a direct challenge to anyone who doubted Ford's capability in the muscle car segment. The Cobra wasn't just fast, it was built to withstand the harshest racing conditions on both drag strips and NASCAR tracks. Then came the Ford Torino Talladega, a machine born solely to meet homologation rules for racing. With an extended front end and a streamlined body, the Talladega proved that Ford was willing to push the limits of design in pursuit of speed. But what few people noticed was this: without the foundation of the 1968 Torino GT, those later versions wouldn't have existed. Thanks to the Torino GT, Ford redefined how it approached the performance car market. From a model once criticized as lacking personality, the Torino gradually became a symbol of efficiency. No need for flash, just results. On today's auction and classic car market, prices for a Torino GT vary widely depending on condition, engine, and variant. A coupe with the standard 302 engine in drivable condition might be listed for between $20,000 and $30,000. But if it's a sports roof fastback version with the 390 or 428 Cobra jet engine, the price can soar to between $60,000 and $90,000. Even more if it's a numbers-matching, original interior, unrestored car. Interestingly, the Torino GT has never been artificially inflated. There's never been a sudden craze. Its value has steadily increased year after year, reflecting the community's reassessment of its historical and technical significance. That's a sign of a car not driven by trends, but preserved through genuine appreciation. Beyond its monetary value, the Torino GT also carries the spirit of a transitional era. It wasn't as loud as the Charger, nor as flamboyant as the Firebird, but it possessed a maturity, practicality, and strength in its own unique way. And now, looking back, we ask ourselves, how did a car once seen as a second-tier choice manage to leave such a lasting impression? The Torino GT wasn't a car that changed automotive history. It didn't dominate every drag strip or star in every Hollywood action film. But sometimes, the cars that whisper instead of shout are the ones we remember most. The Torino didn't need to become a cultural icon to matter. It mattered because of how it felt when you fired it up, watched the tack needle climb, and felt the road through the steering wheel. It mattered through memories. A father driving his kids to school, a teenager feeling raw power for the first time. It lived on in the hearts of those who loved it quietly but deeply. If you've ever seen one, driven one, or dreamed of owning a Torino GT, share your story in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. There are still so many forgotten classics waiting to be rediscovered. And who knows, one of them might just be part of your story too.